All right. Dear friends and listeners of the Indieheads podcast, I am going to present y'all a story. Space. His voice echoed, and suddenly a wave of cheering broke that musky voice that boomed through the speakers. I too cheered. I could feel the pit of my stomach turning in pure lust and anxiety. The room fell to silence. I could feel the butterflies. My breath trembled under my lips. I needed to hear him again. Tesla, he continued. Thunder clapped throughout the stadium. People stood to applaud him, his magnificent brain, his vision. Elon, I moaned, barely a whisper, among the crowd's chanting. His thin lips are wetted by his tongue. It danced across with a majestic flow. I could feel my cheeks burning. Lily?
I was at the front row. I was close enough to touch the stage, and now as he walked closer to the edge, I could smell his cologne. It smelled like the unknown, the bravery and courage that swept from his pores. I looked up, and as I did, everything quieted as if by pure chance we made eye contact. I could feel my heart skip a beat. Elon, I gasped. I couldn't breathe. His overwhelming masculinity. Intelligence was too much to handle. Okay, you take it again.
He knelt down, his clothes barely creasing at the knee. Would you like to come backstage? He said, his accent thick flowing, his big blue orbs dancing across my body like a ballerina. I nodded, unknown to the seduction and power that lay backstage. His hand comes down and offers to pull me up. My soft, small, hairless hands places gently in his. He's warm. I closed my eyes and restrained the primal urge to rip his clothes off. I wouldn't. They were probably expensive clothes. We made way backstage, and I felt the butterflies getting restless, thumping against my stomach as if they wanted to burst free. They also craved Elon's touch. His hand had not let go of mine. I shivered as his man thumb brushed over my supple skin. I could feel my knees buckling.
Finally, we arrive at a door. He stops and thinks for a second. Once I open this door, there's no going back. His eyes darted to my lips, which were delicately being pulled back by my top teeth. Whew. He looked into my orbs. You're biting your lip. Don't be nervous. He lets go of my hand, and suddenly I feel like I'm going to be sick. I nod. I can do this. I almost plead.
Matty, take over.
I need Musk's big brain. I need it to fill me with knowledge. He pulls out a key. It's silver. Suddenly, the door opens with a push. A glow of red seeps through the opening and blinds me. I step in as I feel Elon's hand on the small of my back convincing me to go inside. Oh my God, I whisper, my breath catching on my dry throat. The room is decorated in silk red paint. Black curtains complements the color as it hangs delicately from the king-size bed in the middle of the room. Elon! I exclaim. The room is covered in strange objects unknown to me, some thin and some are round. What is this? I look back to see Elon taking off his beautiful Tesla pattern tie. It's beautiful. This, he breathes to wet his crusty lips again. This is my room, my safe room. No one knows about this except you. And me. He steps closer, and my instinct is to step back. I feel trapped like I'm being hunted. These are my toys. He gestures to an odd-shaped one. It looks almost like a satellite.
My back hits the post of the bed. Elon, his index finger places over my lips. He hushes me. It's okay. He comforts. I want you to have the best experience here at the Elon Musk Stadium. Oh, wait, I panic. I'm sweating and I begin to shake. He leans in closer. I can feel his breath on my neck. It's intoxicated with knowledge. He's the smartest man in the world. Space, he whispers.
I can feel my groin ache. I let out a moan and arch my back. We are going to space. He continues, and I pant rapidly, unable to control what he spiraled me into. In a Tesla. I climax, my knees shaking and I buckle under pressure. I black out in pleasure. I look up and Elon has put his tie back on. He hands me a cup of water and smiles gently. You did good for me. He is caring and sweet. He goes back to his workbench, and I finally understand my purpose in life.
And that was a dramatic reading of the Elon Musk fan fiction written in 2014 by the recording artist Grime. It was awarded a 9.8 on Pitchfork.com, given the tag Best New Fic.
Love this one.
Hello and welcome back to the Indieheads podcast. This week we have a stuffed show that's only going up from here. I'm AJ at Ann Moser on Twitter.com, and we have a big healthy panel this week, including
Hi.
We'll go.
Hi, I will go first because my name is first on the schedule technically. Because I'm Matty at Motorway Prince. I'm not officially hosting this episode because I've done a bad this past 2 weeks, real bad, and also I kind of nerded out about Dean Blunt for over an hour, so it's my power level has been drained.
There's honestly just not enough wrestling talk in this episode, so you're not really interested in having any real presence at all.
Gavin and Zach are gone, all right? Those are my buds. They're gone. I'm all alone.
Also,
Jesus
Christ.
on this week's episode. Well, I mean, there wasn't sorry, I spaced out for a second. Hello, I'm Jackson. I'm Horse Jeans on Twitter. You know who I am. We're gonna talk about some albums today.
Congrats on the
good again.
Congrats on the big win on Saturday, Mr. Jeans. To you and all of Horsekind.
All Horsekind had a big win on Saturday. The biggest day of the year, really, in terms of my people.
I'm Lily at _Earthrise, launching my new voice acting career as Grimes. Gonna put that on IMDb.
Hi, I'm Dylan. I found the gosh dang Elon Musk smut that you heard just now.
Elon smut.
Oh, yeah, so I think I deserve a little bit of credit for it.
Hell yeah. Well, as Jackson teased, we have a very stuffed episode full of good things to talk about. We're going to start with a little dip into the deep pool that is news with some conspiracy theory from our very own Orange Schmorange Alex, with the absolute boy Ezra Koenig doing it again on his radio show Time Crisis, which is on Apple Music? ?
Yes, Beats One,
Okay.
Beats One Radio.
Yes, as most of us sit in anticipation with bated breath for a new Vampire Weekend album, Ezra has been I guess teasing a project or an announcement or something. The album has been. He's talked publicly about the album for quite a while now. I think well over a calendar year at this point, and there has nary been, a logo change or a website update or festival announcements that usually tease these kinds of prominent indie acts rolling out a new LP. But the most dedicated among us seem to believe that something is coming soon-ish. Apparently, the official note here is Alex could explain this better if he's on. But basically, Ezra went out of his way to mention the phrases fourth album, May 11th, and May 18th at the end of the newest episode, which could mean something, maybe. I don't listen to the show, and I don't have much of an opinion on this, except for the fact that I would like this album now, please.
I would like it now, but also I feel like if it does come May 18th, that'd be great. But if there's 2 dates, maybe that's a single and then an album a week later, perhaps?
Yeah.
Maybe. That seems like a thing he might do.
Potentially,
I feel like there will be a single. I don't think he's gonna drop this all at once. My guess is that, especially because he's taking this somewhere new, I feel like he's gonna give us a single to be like, hey, here's where you're headed. Unless he really doesn't want to do that, but I don't think it's not like a project where he's being secretive about it. It's just more like, this is the new album. I'm gonna be trying some new stuff.
He's too much of a thought to do a surprise release. All right, he's too much of a thought.
Yeah, if we know one thing about Ezra, he is a messy bitch who lives for drama, and he will not just drop an album. We will be hearing about this thing for a while. The lead single for Modern Vampires was, or the first single at least, I'm pretty sure was Yahe, which like was, I remember that day on the Indieheads subreddit very well because it was just like shut everything down. Vampire Weekend is bad now, and then it took a little bit for people to come around and be like, wait, maybe this song is actually pretty good, and Modern Vampires ended up being a fantastic album. So I am like really curious about the direction they're going to go in this because obviously like Rostam has left the group. You could feel his influence very heavily on Modern Vampires, especially looking at the stuff he's put out under his like solo moniker. And so now that the like structure that the band has always had is changed so significantly, it'll be interesting to see where they are headed next.
Mm-hmm. I think that's also part of kind of a running narrative with this band is that everyone is kind of sometimes jumping too early and waiting for this band to stop being good because it just never felt like this was a band that like should have been this. Like I think from the first Vampire Weekend album, there's just a segment of indie fans that are just like, okay, when is this gonna stop being a thing? Like I mean, like,
yeah,
and so because of that, like every time there's like we don't know what's happening next, everyone's just like already got their Vampire Weekend is bad now tweets like ready in their drafts. It feels
I would put them in the same like bucket that I put 2016 era Arcade Fire in, where it's like everything that they've never done anything like, you know, they've never released a lowercase a album. Like everything they've done is a big headline. Everything they've done is like major news, and they have not yet earned the right to like do something sort of inconsequential. And so like a lot of eyes are pointed at them whenever they make noise. And obviously that means people got guns out for them, even when they put out a fantastic, studio album that some people just want to jump on. Moving on. So,
yes.
Jackson, what are you doing this summer? You got any big plans?
I sure as hell won't be going to FYF Fest. See, this worked out perfectly for me because so every year the Indieheads podcast, we like to go to Pitchfork Music Festival. It's kind of a thing that we got going on. I didn't go last year. But this year, I was faced with the choice of choosing between going to FYF Music Festival or Pitchfork Music Festival, and I said I'm gonna hang out with my buds. I'm gonna hang out with my pals.
We're gonna crack some cold one. We're gonna listen to every single Bruce Springsteen album.
We are gonna listen to Benji front to back.
We're gonna get up at 9:30 a.m., drink Strawberritos, and listen to Benji.
We
Exactly.
We need the Indieheads retrospect episode on Benji from you too. That is like. During that trip, like that is my main goal. Is like you guys are going to record that podcast, or I'm going to walk you guys in the Airbnb, and you guys are going to record that podcast.
Yeah,
I'm so ready to do it. Like
that's why we booked an extra
really
room.
Too long. Like, we need privacy. Okay, this is off topic.
We booked a separate room just for content.
Point being, is that I decided not to go to FYF Fest, and I was kind of bummed because I was like, I really like FYF every year. The lineup was the best it's ever been last year. Like
it
literally,
has My Bloody Valentine on it this year, right? Or did?
It did.
Yeah.
Honestly, like my hot take, like looking at the FYF Fest lineup and then the Pitchfork lineup,
wasn't good.
I would have rather gone to FYF. FYF had like a really solid undercard. And
FYF was a good lineup this year, but the problem is that last year they took a step way upward in terms of scale, and when you take a step up that high and then you release a lineup that has like 2/3 of the pure number, it doesn't have like even, it has like almost half of the total number of artists that last year had. Last year was a 3-day festival that had a huge lineup with 2 headliners every night. It was Missy Elliott, Bjork, Tribe Called Quest, Frank Ocean, Nine Inch Nails, and Solange. Like that's insane. And then you can't do that to My Bloody Valentine and Janet Jackson, who both of which are good, but neither of which are going to move tickets even like a fraction of what Frank Ocean is moving tickets or what Nine. And what happened basically was that because their attendance was so big last year was a big year for them, because there was such a obvious and non-debatable step down in lineup this year because of a number of factors. It was like everyone who went last year is deciding not to go this year because it's like, oh, I went last year and this year's not that big, I can just skip this year. And every single person all collectively decided to make the decision to just skip this year, and now the festival isn't happening, and it's wild. And also, the one thing I think is very important to not forget about is after last year's lineup, their owner, the guy who, not the guy who runs Golden Voice, but before FYF was bought by Golden Voice, it was run by this one dude, and that dude was ousted the fuck out of Golden Voice because he's a sexual predator. And ever since then, it seemed like their plans for the next year of the festival were kind of dubious, and then the lineup came out and it was like super. I mean, it was like a stacked undercard. Like, they're really good at booking festivals. Everyone on there is good in terms of like, I really would have loved to see Against All Logic. Do you know who's not buying tickets to festivals to go see Nicholas Jar's side project? Is just anyone, like besides us, besides nerds like us. So like, in terms of being able to, FYF was like this perfect festival that was like bridging the gap between wanting to be large and wanting to be indie, and they were doing that by getting these titans of indie music like Bjork and people like Frank Ocean and people like Nine Inch Nails that simultaneously pull in people but are definitively indie, so it has that kind of feel to it. And the risk you run with that is that if you don't get enough seat fillers on your lineup, you can have something like this happen, and it's pretty wild. It's like one of the first like big festivals that seems to have cratered it all in some way.
I guess, and if anything, this is proof that shoegaze really is dead, huh?
All right, yeah.
All right, so yeah.
A lot of people at Coachella Forum were trashing the Janet Jackson pick, which I don't understand. Some people were excited about it. It just seems like no one was like that, like fired up about it. That seemed to be FYF's big play this year. Was besides like Florence and some other people that like are obvious festival players, they were like, our big unique acts this year are going to be Janet Jackson and My Bloody Valentine. And I'll tell you that that's not Frank Ocean and Bjork. It just isn't. I mean,
but also not small names for sure.
Not small. I mean, the My Bloody Valentine thing is big. Janet Jackson is huge. She played the Super Bowl. Like, yeah, I understand, but it just didn't work out for them in a colossally bad way. Yeah, it's wild that they're just straight up canceling it. Like, they're literally, I know,
just, like that rarely happens.
It's so bad that their projections are like, we're not going to sell enough tickets to even turn a profit at all. So they're just scrapping the whole thing. And apparently what they're doing is they're going to do a run of one-off shows with some of the artists, because they already do a whole festival series where they have a bunch of FYF artists play LA dates that are also booked by Golden Voice. So they're probably just going to do a My Bloody Valentine concert in LA, which is cool, because then the people who wanted to see them will probably be able to go see them. But it's wild. It's a very interesting story.
Alrighty, well, let's hop on over to the meat of the show here, which is talking about the tunes. And we're going to start hot with Single Alert. More like Singles Alert, because there's a lot of good songs on this list. The first of which that we should probably just immediately dive into the deep discourse is the new Childish Gambino track, This Is America, and the accompanying music video, which I feel like it's really kind of pointless to try and talk about the song without talking about the video, just because it is so pointed and so striking. And I think like my take, which I'll just sort of dive in with here, is that like the song itself is fine, but it really is like without the video not as effective or even like memorable, honestly. I do think that like the melody is cool and the kind of like basic structure of the chorus is fine, but like everything else that's happening is just not super interesting. I do think like, if it sounds like I'm negative, I do think it is one of the better Childish Gambino tracks that have ever been put out, which like would tell you my opinion of Childish Gambino up to this point. But what I do really like about this track is the like crazy array of vocal guests and like ad libs that are on it, because it is really neat to see someone like Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, just like straight up embracing like meme rap, SoundCloud, mumble rap sort of like artists.
Young Thug
just, like,
has a whole like almost feature on this song.
Whole ass almost feature on this song, and like it easily could have like Donald Glover easily could have just like pivoted to the whole like J. Cole thing where you get like headlines that are like Donald Glover had words about SoundCloud rappers, or, you know, Donald Glover absolutely eviscerates Takeshi 6ix9ine on like the radio, and just like that's not the shit I think a lot of people are interested in, honestly. I don't know, hip-hop fans maybe, but it's like, just like, that doesn't make for an interesting song. See, like, anything Eminem has done in the past, like, 2 years. And so to have him, like, enthusiastically embracing them and, like, giving all of these cool ad-libs and, like, interesting sounds of presence on a song that is obviously so popular is really neat to see. And that's about the extent of my take on it. I think his project could be interesting. We'll see what happens.
Yes. Except I like the song a bit more than you do.
I would say I'm also a little higher on the song musically. I mean, I think that it is hard to separate them. I actually, weirdly enough, listened to the song by itself first because I was in an airport and I was like not able to sit down and watch a music video, but everyone was like freaking the fuck out about this song, so I was like, let me put this on while I'm walking. And I mean that might color my kind of thing because obviously the song and the music video are very linked, and kind of the ways that the song shifts dramatically are accompanied by the usually gunshots and violence and things that are happening in the video. But like, I think the song is really cool in the way that there's like the juxtaposition of kind of these like super heavy, dark, like thundering drums with the plucked guitar strings and like these weird, like totally whacked out like chorus vocals. They're like chorus vocals, but they're not like you would see on like a Kanye album where it's like very gospel-y and soul-y. They're very kind of strange and quirky in a way that kind of reminded me of some of the stuff on the Awaken My Love album, but it's like being incorporated into a song that's a lot more kind of urgent and dynamic and interesting and fun than a lot of the stuff on Awaken My Love, which is very cool. I was very much like, when I heard Awaken My Love, I was like really hoping like, okay, take what you did here and like add this as a tool to your toolbox. Don't make this your whole thing from now on. And I'm kind of glad to see that he's continuing to do. Apparently this is going to be the last album that's a Childish Gambino album. So if he releases more music in the future, it's probably just going to be under Donald Glover. So I think it could be really interesting to see like what he chooses to do with this, because like he's obviously having like this giant moment right now where he in 1 month is like hosting SNL, finishing the second season of his hit TV show that's like a critical darling, is going to be in a Star Wars movie, and is like dominating popular music discussion right now. And so it really does feel like the music element is going to be a lot bigger of a portion of his equation than it kind of has been in the past. I hope he makes a genuinely great record, because he's clearly like a talented dude who has a lot of good artistic ideas, and it would be really fun if we could just see him really put it together in a way that we have, because we've seen flashes of it all over the place.
Hello, because the Internet Defender has logged on.
Jesus Christ, this is the strangest hill for Matty to die on, honestly. I just
it really is. It really is.
There's so many good songs on that album, but no one in their right mind can look at the entirety of that album, every single thing that's on it, and be like, this collectively is
I disagree.
It is lowercase g good.
No. I think here's the thing. Like, let me give you the background. All right. Like here's so
No.
No. Okay. I will be short. I will be short about this. All right. Let's say going into Because of the Internet, like at the time when it came out, I was like, this album is going to be bad and it is going to suck. Donald Glover is a pretentious asshole. I hate him, and yet somehow I enjoyed the album, and I still enjoyed it. I listened to it last night, and I'm like, damn, this is still a great album. And also, AJ, I know you're iffy on the song, but like, please, I listened to This Is America, and then I listened to Bonfire like right after, and it's night and day. Seriously.
Oh, I certainly, Bonfire is a wonderful example to make, because like, you know, Childish Gambino as an artist just used to be like capital B bad, and has like a history worth talking about of just like lyrics that are not even like, you know, just like not creatively offensive, that are just like actually just like genuinely offensive in the like language they use. Basically just like all of camp, and especially that like original EP isn't just like lazy like writing that relies on like racial stereotypes and puns, but it's just like overtly all of that shit. And so the whole like Donald Glover as a genius wave has always sat kind of strangely with me. But like, because the Internet is just an overly pretentious project with a lot of interesting moments on it, but that is conceptually bogged to hell.
I mean, I don't want to go too long on this because really we could do like a half an hour podcast about Childish Gambino right now. But I think a point that was made. I was listening to the Watch podcast. Don't listen to any podcasts that aren't ours. But
only podcast on the planet, Indieheads podcast.
But they made a really great point talking about how before the internet, not to make a pun, but like before the internet, with these capital G great artists, a lot of the time they would create stuff in darkness in their early years until they're good enough to kind of break through. And we have these moments where like artists come out with their first album after making music for like 7-8 years, and now it's this great album that starts a great career, but they were shitty for 6 years that you didn't see. The thing with Childish Gambino is because he was a TV writer and he was on Community and he's been in our lives for so long and for so much of his life, like we kind of watched him grow up while he was actively putting out art, which is just usually a thing that didn't happen as much. And so like as a result, like we saw him go from being a kind of lazy, kind of just like he was the Derek comedy guy, like there's and like he was just like a funny guy who did stand up and he was on TV and he wrote and he did all these things, but like musically there was nothing really significant going on there. But then like over 5 years he's really started to put it together and become a great artist. And so some people, it's weird because we like to create these visions of artists that just like everything they touch is genius, like the idea of genius being so important and everyone wanting to put Donald Glover into this Kanye shaped mold that is suddenly open in our lives. And I just like, no, he's not a genius. He's worked really hard for a long time and is now doing a lot of good stuff. And we don't need him to fit this kind of narrative that he's just some like that this just happens instantaneously. It doesn't. You have to make shitty stuff before you can make good stuff. That's how it works. You make shitty stuff and then you realize it was shitty and then you stop making stuff like that and eventually your stuff becomes good.
Except for this podcast, which has always been
fantastic. Except for this podcast, which I don't know. That Elon Musk bit, I mean, Pulitzer, it might be a bit too high to reach.
Folks, this is the good stuff.
This is the good stuff, right?
We got more stuff to talk about. Let's.
Yeah,
I know Matty has some opinions on
let's move on from one. Let's move on from one contentious meme rap group to the next. Death Grips are back with a new song for their upcoming album, which has a name that I forgot.
Year of the
Snitch, with also some.
It's a good one.
Some very interesting cover art on that one, right?
It's good cover art. Fuck you.
I kind of like.
I love that cover.
It's a great cover.
It's good cover art in terms that it's nightmare fuel. Yes, it is good cover art for Death Grips.
I mean, this is again. That
is my criteria.
Again,
so.
let me remind y'all. This is the band that had an album cover that was the drummer's dick, and Sharpie had the album name. All right, like. These are the standards we're working with. And I will maintain that the No Love Deep Web album art, for what it represented, was a great album cover. Like, obviously, objectively, it's terrible. But subjectively, and in the context, it's great. But let's talk about this new song. It's not great. I don't know if it's even good. It is, it's potentially the worst Death Grips song they've put out that's not, like, an instrumental song. Like, we're talking, like, the main Death Grips canon. Like, this might be the worst thing they put out.
It definitely gets weaker with every listen for me. Like, the first time I was like, this is pretty solid. Like, it's kind of a bottomless pit rehash, then whatever. And then the second time I was like, oh, I like this less. And then I listened to it right before it recorded, and it just, the problems keep coming. It's strange. I realized towards the end of that third listen is that this is the first time, like, for better or for worse, that a new Death Grip song has not made me excited.
Hey,
I just put it on and I was like, "This is another Death Grip song."
Yeah, AJ, I'm gonna apologize for saying that after steroids, Death Grips is back, baby. I don't know if I can stand by that now after this new song. I hope this is just like an outlier.
Yeah. Like the other thing about this is like choosing to release a song like this that feels like too. You know what I mean? Like it feels so subdued. Part of me feels like this could just be like a ruse where like this song sounds nothing like the rest of the album and they've intentionally chosen to make this the single because they're Death Grips and that's a thing that they would do.
They did do that with Hothead.
Yeah, I mean that was what they did with Hothead. They've done that in the past with like first singles before, or occasionally. And like I don't know, it's as one of the presidents of the Bottomless Pit Defender fan club, like
Yeah.
Even for me, Streaky was underwhelming in the way that Bottomless Pit wasn't for me. And
I
so
agree completely.
And so that is why I'm bummed out, because if they had done a Bottomless Pit rehash that I liked as much as the songs on Bottomless Pit, we'd be rehashing the exact same argument we've had literally like 4 times on this podcast between me and Matty about Bottomless Pit. But like even I'm like, yeah, this is pretty underwhelming. It's just not. It doesn't. Like Death Grip's music when you put it on should sound like you should be like having like a heart attack. Like, what in the world is this? I've never experienced things like this. And I mean that's too much of a onus to put on them every time. But they can do it. We know they can do it. We've seen them do it so many times that our high expectations of what we expect them to do are somewhat warranted. When you put out like 4 or 5 albums like that in a row, it means something.
Yeah, it sort of or like finalizes, I guess, what Bottomless Pit started, which is the transition of Death Grips from like this like crazy post-internet cultural vanguard to just like a regular band.
And it's sad. It's sad. It was going to happen eventually with Death Grips. I think after Jenny Death, it was pretty obvious that like it was going to happen. It's like, like,
but it's
because
also fair because like it's very hard to kind of hang on to that thing forever where they were just these people who were shoving their middle fingers in everyone's faces and being like, fuck you, fuck this, fuck that. Like, you can't, there's like, as human beings, you just can't kind of do that forever, because it just like, because then you get kicked off your label multiple times and shit like that. And it kind of seems like they've been kind of beaten down by the record industry a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at the end of the day, we live in a society.
So I think this is my favorite Death Grip song I've heard since
fuck you,
2015.
AJ. Fuck you. Fuck off.
AJ having this
Fuck
is
off,
so good.
AJ. Fuck
I also
off.
This is such a good heel turn.
I also think that I just don't like Death Grips anymore, so like what they were supposed to be to me is just kind of nonsensical and doesn't exist at this point. But whatever, I'm glad we could have that discourse.
We're issuing a correction regarding the rap group Death Grips. You do not, under any circumstances, gotta hand it to them.
Okay,
they are owed absolute.
Right. Next track. Parquet Courts. Parquet Courts. Yeah. They got a new album coming out. They got new album coming out May 18th called Wide Awake. They've had a couple of really good singles on this album. This new one, Mardi Gras Beads. It's real nice. It's real good. Those are my thoughts.
I like this one. This is the one where it was like, hey, remember that crazy stuff we were doing that sounded like a LCD sound system song? This is a Parquet Courts song. This is this song was like, hey, we're still making a Parquet Courts album.
Yeah, there's really nothing much to be said about this song other than just like, if you like Parquet Courts, you'll probably like this song. They don't really have like a clear direction for this album based on what we've heard from it so far, other than just like, you like Parquet Courts, right? And I'm like, yup, give me that. Like, Human Performance had an interesting concept around it, and I think like maybe when we hear the album in its whole, some of that will reveal itself. But right now it's just, we're kind of grimy, we're kind of cool. You like rock music, right? And I'm like, hell yeah, sign me up.
Like, to go back a little bit, like we probably all said the same thing around the time before Rocket dropped last year, of like all these singles sounding like so different from each other. Like, how is this all going to fit on the same album? But like, at this point, Parquet Courts, it's like, yeah, it'll all fit on the same album. Like, they're Parquet Courts, they're a good, reliable rock band. They're good boys, all right.
I trust those.
They're dirty soft boys, all right. They're sweet boys.
Not pure in any way whatsoever.
Not pure, but not filthy, but not like rowdy. Mm-hmm. They can get a little rowdy though. I mean, they can get a little rowdy. That first single is very rowdy, but this is they're dirty soft boys. All right.
You know what? I Will is good, and is the next single. And is the best Beach House song that's come out in a long time, a very long time. Ooh. It's Black Car, and it's by Beach House, and it's this new album is very, very interesting and weird for me, because like there's this whole kind of thing where like they're really doing different stuff here, which I'm so happy about. Like clearly this album they were genuinely either by themselves or they wrote that whole letter. They kind of forced themselves out of the rut that they fell into on like I like Devotion a lot. Not Devotion. Depression Cherry. I like Depression Cherry a lot. I didn't like Thank You Like Your Stars as much because like Depression Cherry was a good album that felt like the albums that came before it, and then when you release another one of those the same year, it's like, okay, we're all the way in a rut here. It felt
like it kind of creatively undercut everything that was good about Depression Cherry by just being can they churn one of those out like whenever they want to, and if so, like, does this music like really just have merit, or is it the same as like the mindless Spotify algorithm stuff?
You know what Depression Cherry is like? Depression Cherry is like if after releasing after releasing Bottomless Pit, Death Grips released an entire album that was just like Bottomless Pit but worse. Like another one.
To happen.
Yeah, I mean it's basically like but
like a month later,
and then everyone would have probably been like, okay, Death Grips aren't good anymore. And there was kind of that Beach House backlash narrative. And the thing with this new album with Beach House is like they're trying new stuff, and some of it I'm like, yes, and some of it I'm like, and some of it I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. And so, like, I'm really excited to hear this whole album. I mean, the other thing is that even in the songs where I'm like, it's still Beach House. So, like, when I put on the whole album, I'm going to enjoy it because I don't think I've ever been listened to a Beach House song and been like, this doesn't sound good to my ears. It always just, like, makes my ears feel good. Like, they're getting a little ear massage. Like, there's a very, very solid floor of how much I enjoy every single Beach House song. And the cool thing about them trying new stuff is that sometimes they can reach back up there and do some Teen Dream shit. And let me tell you, Black Car fucking rules. Yeah. It's so good. I love the really kind of spacey synthesizer stuff that's going on in this. This is like out there for them in a way that I like a lot.
It is really cool to see this band be like creative and conceptually diverse again after like the just sort of like rut that they had certainly fallen into. I don't think this single is as good as Dive, which is like maybe my favorite Beach House song of all time. That song is incredible. But I am really excited to hear this album. And the early word on the street is that it like pretty much universally is one of their best albums and like certainly their best since Bloom, which hell yeah, give me that right now.
Yes, definitely. I feel very positively about this album and the song in general. Black Heart is cool because it feels like a Beach House song. Like you put it on, you get the same feelings, but it doesn't have the same like parts to put it. Like they put together a Beach House song with very different parts, but it managed to create the same kind of, because they really could just turn on their reverb machine and play some guitars and make me and sing and just crank out Beach House albums all day long. Mm-hmm. But trying to make Beach House albums out of other things is how they're going to continue to be a band that's like worth caring about.
So the thing with Beach House with this album, they mentioned in like an interview leading into the album, I think just a part of like the press kit or whatever. Essentially, like the last couple albums they made, they were pretty much just like their albums. Like they were just wondering, like, well, okay, they made albums with live performance in mind. Like, hey, like can we actually tour these songs, you know? And with this new album, they basically were just like, fuck that. Like, you know, let's use the studio as a creative space. Like, who cares if we can't play this stuff live, you know? Like, let's really experiment a little bit. And that shows in these songs. Except for Lemon Glow, I think Lemon Glow is still really, like, a boring, generic Beach House song. But the last two singles, Dive and then this one, are just like, oh my god, like, this is what I've wanted from them for, like, so many fucking years now. Like, it's finally happening again. Like, you know, the promise that was on Teen Dream, like, I feel like it's now being realized a little bit. It's just like, yes, finally. I'm very happy to report that the Beach House songs are very good. They're back, baby. They're good again.
Yeah, it really does just sound like they're having fun again making music, which they did not on the last two albums. It was very much sort of like this methodical slog, whereas there's like a real energy and dynamism to it that was kind of lost, and like I'm very glad to see that back.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of slogs, but like a good slot.
Matt, you're not gonna land this. You're not gonna land this.
Speaking of
No, he said slogs, not slugs.
Wait. Hold on.
That's
AJ got it.
Yeah, there you go.
Got it.
Speak.
A Snail Mail song. The new Snail Mail song. It's called Heatwave.
Yeah.
No, Matty, you don't get to introduce it.
Maddie's like, oh, my internet cut out. We have to re-edit my joke back into the podcast. Sorry, guys.
Snail Mail put out another new single, and it's similarly like new Stratosphere's level of good for her. It's truly wild how like simultaneously the new songs sound kind of like all the other Snail Mail stuff that came out before this, but also like nothing like it, because it's just a complete like leap forward in terms of song structure, in terms of the production of these songs. Like Thinning is a good song, but Thinning sounds very kind of flat in the way that every indie band that doesn't have a lot of like good equipment sounds like. It just sounds like any other indie band. But like the moment they fucked around and gave my girl here like the proper resources and skills to put together an album, she's like, bet I'm gonna make one of the best indie rock albums of the year, and it's gonna be insanely good. And Heatwave fucking rules. It's as good as Pristine, I think. Actually, I think Pristine's a little better. I would give it the slight edge, but like there is a really great combination between some awesome guitar sounds. I really like the noisier because the song has a very kind of typical indie electric guitar sound, but then there's like some noisier ones that come in on the chorus part that really give some like dynamic depth to kind of the production of the song. And similarly to Pristine, it has like chorus verse structure, but it also feels kind of linear in a way where like the song builds pieces on top of each other until you get to the last 2 minutes of the song that's just like pure unadulterated nut. And this song is great, and it makes me feel sad, and there are lyrics in it that have caused me emotional trauma, and they will be receiving a bill for my therapy.
I was attacked by Lindsey Jordan. All right, I don't. But yeah, what Jackson was saying, I was attacked by this song. I was very much attacked by Pristine. Pristine is offensive. All right, there's no. You can't. Lindsey Jordan, you can't do this, all right? You can't lodge yourself into my brain. You can't make me feel this way. I'm not gonna let you. I'm just kidding. I'm gonna let you make me feel this way, because the Snail Mail album, it might be my album of the year. Like, it seems like it's coming. It's getting that way. Like, I'm not trying to over-listen to this one like I did with Pristine, because it's like, okay, I want to go to this album as fresh as I possibly can. Like, I want to let it collectively set in and collectively fuck me up. You know, like, I really need. Do you remember the headline? Machine Gun Kelly gets punched in the chest 300 times, or whatever the fuck.
It was 52 times.
That's what Lindsey Jordan is getting ready to do to me, and so I have to prepare. All right, I have to train.
This definitely is entering the Lomelda zone. Of 2018.
No! Oh, he did it! He did it! There's
a lot of incredible lyrics on this album, but when she says, "And I hope whoever it is holds their breath around you, because I know I did." That is 56 Machine Gun Kelly punches right to the chest. Just oh my lord! Yeah, she's so great. I saw her at Coachella a week and a half ago, and she was awesome. Her band is really good live. They've definitely, like, Matty, you said they were kind of underwhelming when you saw them a little while ago. I think they've definitely like stepped up in terms of like live performance, and she's just so cool. She's so small, and it's just like how is something this good coming out of such a small person?
Okay, the thing
I want to protect her.
Okay, the thing is, I saw them before Pristine came out, so I wasn't I wasn't on the train. So I wasn't on the train. She also said she was sick during the show, so like, you know, there's that element. And also, just like, I feel like there's probably too many indie bands that don't know how to properly like do sound live still.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
And you know, a dickhead sound engineer can fuck you over completely.
Yeah, especially with like new and up and coming bands, they're just like kind of opening. Like, they're not going to get the kind of care that they need to kind of really bring what they're doing to the crowd. Anyways, point being, Snail Mail fucking rules. The song rules. It's so good.
All right, last on the list, AJ.
All right,
I was saying I didn't want to dominate the conversation there, but I had to wow out. All right, what's next?
The next song is a personal attack on everything that I hold dear and important to me. It's the new Wild Pink song, which is one of the biggest glow-ups in indie rock history. Wild Pink put out an album last year. I caught them here in New York, and it was pretty good, kind of like what if Death Cab for Cutie was a little more shoegazy than they were, type of just sort of like generic indie rock album that didn't really do a ton of things interesting, but they fully pivoted to Heartland rock, War on Drugs, just guitar-led rock music on this new single called Lake Erie, and wow, does it fuck me in half, brother. It's just, like, if you like that whole, like, Springsteen throwback guitar rock that, like, if you like the War on Drugs, you're gonna fucking love this song because it's basically the War on Drugs, but it's imbued with just a little bit of that, like, what if Pitchfork really liked the war? Like, what if the War on Drugs was, like, cool and trendy, type of thing that you see a little bit, and just, like...
This is a War on Drugs song that you can play in an H&M. That's what it is, but, like, in a good way, not in, like, a...
I mean,
like
you can play plenty of War on Drugs songs in an H&M.
But the teens won't go like, Dad, who gave you, like, the music, or, like, what is going on here? Like, they're like, oh, I kind of like this. I would play this in front of my friends.
It uses
guitars. Yeah,
the guitars are good.
If you like guitars, you're gonna fucking love this song. The tones on this thing rip ass as much as they possibly can. It's an absolute banger and a half. I literally cannot wait any longer for this record coming out on Tiny Engines at the end of the month. It's an AOT watch for sure.
Oh yeah, I listened to this right before the podcast. It's really good. That's my 2 cents.
And speaking of albums, hey, it's a quick little album catch up for y'all. We're gonna talk about some albums. Well, you guys are gonna talk about some albums. I've done a lazy and I haven't listened to like any new music in the past 2 weeks. That is at least for full albums. Although I will briefly mention the Serpent with Feet album that's coming out in a few months. It's very fucking good. Be on the lookout for that.
It's wild how all of 5 of these albums are great that we're going to talk about today. Like, all of these are, like, every single one of these albums, I would say, is, like, significantly more interesting than most of the music that we've gotten this year. Really, every year, sometime around, like, the April-May zone, someone at the music headquarters, the big factory that makes all the music, someone cranks a lever hard, and all of a sudden the year's like, oh, your album of the year list is lacking? Well, take some DJ Koze.
It's like a gumball machine. You kind of just open it up and it's like, what did you get? Oh, I got a Janelle Monae. What did you get? Oh, I just got, I just got another Iceage, and it's like, fuck.
All of these albums are great. Let's start with the first one, which the first one on our list is the new DJ Koze album. It's called Knock Knock. And I haven't spent enough time on this to have, like, super coherent thoughts on it, because one, I've only listened to it like 1.5 times, but also because it is a dense ass album. Like, every single song, I definitely immediately when hearing it, I would compare it to the Against All Logic album from this year, but like that album is it reminds me of, it's like a fusion of like what if Against All Logic and the Avalanches like had a baby, and it's like this album where it's like it has that same attention to sound design that's just out of this world. The sound design all over this album is just like, I just don't know how I just like my brain can't even begin to think about how you made that kick drum sound like that, and things like there are all these songs that like, but they're pop songs. That's the thing that really separates this kind of from the last DJ Koze album. Like, these are these intricate, detailed songs that are very easy on the ears. It's like there's a lot going on in every song, but it's not like it's not like there are electronic music albums that are super dense and have a lot going on that are like Garden of Delete, where it's just like there's nothing you can grab onto and hold on to really, and it's just which is the appeal of Garden of Delete. That's just like I don't even know where to like begin to wrap my arms around it. But because everything on this DJ Koze album has such like sweet melodies and beautiful sampling and vocals and these things that are elements of pop music being worked into them, it just like makes it works so well and just clicks quickly in a way that these kind of electronic music albums usually don't necessarily click right away, and that's why I think it's really, really good.
Yeah, I was struck by how immediate it was because like back in 2013, I gave Amygdala a lot of tries. Like I really wanted to love that album, but it was only like a few songs that stood out to me, and this album just sort of like takes the mood of those songs and stretches them out over the entire album in a way that like Amygdala to me felt very sort of like torn between this like playful nature and this like really joyful instinct he seemed to have in him versus like this club music self-seriousness. And this one just like fully goes for broke in regards to just being like a super playful and joyful album, and it pays off really, really well. It's much more satisfying, and like it's still 80 minutes, but somehow like it works. I'm not mad it's 80 minutes this time. It's fine.
Yeah,
I'll take 80 minutes of that.
Yeah, it really feels like he's like, all right, I'm gonna go. When did so he went away for 5 years and is like, I'm gonna come back and come back with 80 more minutes of like sprawling goatness all over this album. And the other thing about it that some people point out is how well the features are integrated into it. Like, so many of the features in this album, I could not distinguish from songs that had samples, because every single artist, it feels like he just got them to, like, sing into a microphone and hit some keys, then leave. It's like every artist who's featured in this album came into a studio, played some music stuff, and then left, and then DJ Koze did things with it. Like, but, like, in a way that doesn't feel, like, sterile in terms of the collaboration, but it really feels like he was, like, in charge of, I want this album to sound like this, and I want to bring in other people because it really needs to be a colorful, diverse album, but everyone who gets brought in is like worked into it like chocolate chip cookies into a damn cookie. Like it's just all part of the thing, and it's so good. It's very pleasant to the ears, and it invokes all these things of house music and soul music and pop music and all kinds of stuff going on. Like, this year for the Bleeps is absurd, and we have another Bleep album this week that's equally goat. And so I am very all aboard the electronic music is good again hype train right now.
Yes,
not that it ever stopped being good.
It just was good less. It's like the same level of good, but less often.
Well, the thing is, last year there were like 40 electronic albums that were B pluses that I liked a lot. And this year it's like 5 or 6 like towering electronic. Like, we're gonna get a Jon Hopkins album, a DJ Koze album, an Against All Logic album, and a One Tricks Point Never album in 6 months.
And we already got the Nils Fromm album this year. That's very, very good as well.
And the Daniel Avery album. It's they're rolling out the big hitters.
Yeah, it's great. It's really great, and all of them have stepped up to the plate. Like, all of them have been very, very interesting in very creative ways, and I like this DJ Koze album a lot. It's great.
Cool. We can roll into let's just keep the bleeps a rolling then. In that case.
Wait, hold on. I need to grab my comically large-sized bong, and I need to put on my black eye makeup. Because we're about to.
Yeah, can I get like a bong rip ASMR here really quickly?
Oh, we wanna break up the bleeps here with a little stoner metal.
Yeah,
then. Okay, all right.
Let's take a little detour.
We'll talk about our own 420
our very
surprise
good
here.
stoner metal dads have. They returned.
Isn't it the wildest fucking shit how they came out of nowhere the day before 420 and they were like, by the way, we have a new album coming out tomorrow.
On fucking Third Man Records because Jack White's a madman.
It's the most just like novelty shit. This like might be one of the best instances of just like the most just like random shit just being like, okay,
it's
sure.
Just straight and then flexing is what it is.
It's so like yeah. When was the last time these dudes like played? I mean, like they've been touring a little bit this year, so we maybe should have seen this coming.
past like few years, yeah.
But it's just,
like,
yeah,
they never like explicitly said it's like, oh hey, we have new stuff coming. Like the stuff that they've been playing is stuff from like the early and mid '90s that they've been playing for the last 20 years already. So like,
and
nobody
genuinely
expected this.
They all moved on to like a ton of different and like great on their own merits metal projects, but then you just get this that's like, hey, remember the thing we did that like literally everyone remembers us for? We can still do that like really fucking well and come up with like really great ideas in the year 2018. And it's like, god damn it, like they're the kind of, this album is just like so good that it makes me mad that these people can just be that talented continually.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking about the new Sleep album, by the way.
Yeah, it's called The Sciences. The album cover is some like the motherfucking Share Zone shit, but it doesn't matter. Like the album, it has a song.
You can really see like a fucking vape cloud in like the astronaut's helmet. It's the best fucking shit ever.
It's like it has a song called the Marijuana's theme on it.
Marijuana's theme, Antarctitian thought, or something like that.
Really loud bong rip. I made a joke about bong rip sound effects. There's one on the second song on here, which is really the first song because the first song is an intro. This album starts with an intro track, a bong rip, and then stoner metal.
And then just like face melting riffs. Like this is the best fucking shit I've heard. Like this is the best fucking metal shit I'm gonna hear all year. Like I'm sorry, Deaf Heaven, I don't care. The riffs are fucking like they're wild. Okay. Yeah,
we had this and the Deaf Heaven single like in a pretty rapid succession, and I was like, why do I ever listen to anything except metal? Like this shit is so good. I'm throwing out everything in my wardrobe that isn't black. I'm going to start smoking a shit ton of weed. It's just like incredibly... This album is just immense in the same way that like Dope Smoker and The Holy Mountain are just like these immense albums where it's like, I am not always in the mood for like just these powerful plotting riffs, but like when I am, it is just like pure sweet comfort food that you can always return to because you know you're just going to get these like immaculate performances, insane vocal performances, like just tight instrumentation and just like long immense riffs that consume everything and are so like, I think the Dope Smoker album art certainly helps in this regard, and The Sciences maybe to a lesser degree, but it's just such like evocative music where you're like, I don't know what the fuck this dude is singing from the back of his throat about, but it's just like I am all the way into it.
The production is actually really clean on this album, which is what really surprised me because I mean, you have Holy Mountain, which is and then you have Dope Smoker, which is, it's still just this very like grimy, faded like production style, and then this is just like squeaky clean. It's like, oh, I can actually understand like every lyric here, and the lyrics are just fucking bullshit because they're just a bunch of fucking nerds singing about like, I don't know, Jerusalem and Dungeons and Dragons or some shit. Like I don't fucking know.
Yeah,
it's the best fucking shit. Oh my god. Like they literally did not miss a beat here. It's not like the guys haven't been making music. Like they've had like Ohm and High on Fire. Like they've been making their own stuff. But like as a group coming back and being like, you know what, let's just do this shit. And putting out and just fucking again flexing on all these motherfuckers this year. Like it's ridiculous. It's really kind of ridiculous. Like, we did not deserve this kind of album. How it came out, just the quality of it, too. I mean, this is...
It like is a genuine miracle. And
yeah, like, metal comeback albums tend to not have the best track record of being decent a whole lot. But this is just, like, completely blows everything out of the water. It's one of the best comeback albums I think I've ever heard.
Shout out to the Pitchfork Media conglomerate for rightfully slapping it with the best new music as well. Very important stuff.
How do you slap this album with best new music and still like underscore it? I don't understand Pitchfork at all.
What rank did it get again? Did it get 8.4?
It was like 8.2 or something like that.
Really? I thought it was like an 8.6.
No, it was like
Let me check. I need to
It's
check.
their token. Like it was their token. We can't not give this best new music, but we're very upset that we have to give this best new music. The very dismissive.
Wait. Hang on. It got 8.4 best new music and 8.4 divided by 2.
Fuck off.
Okay, the fork's good actually.
Yeah, Pitchfork actually good.
Yeah, the last 3 albums of best new music are a comeback stoner rock album, a super vast, colorful pop and electronic masterpiece, and now another album which I will not say because we're talking about it later. But like, what a run of B&Ms right there! Like truly up with some of the great runs out there.
Yeah, still the mortal enemies of this podcast, though.
Oh yeah, no.
Watch your back. We are coming.
Don't worry. In literally, like, I don't know how long it'll take us to talk about the next album, but in exactly 2 albums, probably 15 minutes, I'm going to be complaining about a Pitchfork score. So just wait. Just give it a second. We'll be all the way back around.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be all in on that gripe.
They have returned to their bullshit.
Yeah. But anyway,
Speaking of
hang on.
Speaking of returning to my bullshit. Oh.
So I just want to make sure. Again, I do not have any thoughts on this album because I haven't listened to it yet. But before the bleep heads go off, this is what they think of this album. This is just like a quick collection of what they think.
Good evening, Twitter. This is your boy, Eat That Pussy 445, and about like 30 to 45 minutes ago, I beat the fuck out of my dick so goddamn hard that I can't even feel my left leg. My left leg has went totally numb. And my dick has also went totally numb to the point to where it feels fucking weird when I go and take a piss.
Okay, continue.
Yeah.
Continue.
Jon Hopkins, Singularity.
Yes. That's just about right. Jon Hopkins, we all know him, we all love him. He is a electronic music producer who was it 2012? 2013? 2013.
It was 2013. I remember that very precisely because like that was one of my first Bleep albums, and I was like, oh hey, this album art looks pretty cool, and I put it on and it fucking destroyed me. Like,
It's one of the best electronic albums of the decade. It is an immense hour-long odyssey of techno and house and a lot of IDM and glitch and a lot of ambient music as well as piano music because he's a very, very talented pianist. And
we like to call all of that the good shit.
The good shit. It is a one-of-a-kind mix of electronic styles and elements that only he knows how to make. And 5 years later, he's come back and he made it again. And literally, like, this album is a rehash of everything I liked about the last one. And I would never, ever, ever say that as a not compliment because the fact that he can do that again is just like, sure, yes, please, sir, can I have some more? Like, this is it is true, and it doesn't feel like that much. It feels genuinely different, but just in ways that I can't really, like, it's going to take a lot of listening to this before I can be like, okay, here's what Singularity is specifically, and here's what Immunity is specifically, and here's what they're different. But all I know is that this album hits all the same, like, serotonin spots in my brain the last one hits in very, very good ways. And Everything Connected is the true opus that I similarly to how I feel about Open Eye Signal from the last one, where like sometimes he can just do these like 10-minute long techno songs that just like burrow their way into your brain until they're like the only thing that is your reality, and it's overwhelming how genius he is at kind of wrangling some of these glitchier and headier and dense sounds into these like thumping, like churning techno rhythms that just like take over your body like you're being possessed. It's really good. This album,
it's not even the best 10-minute track on the album because I'm gonna raise you Luminous Beings towards the end. And I probably prefer Everything Connected, but yes. Luminous Beings, like legitimately feels like like this album is cut into two. Like you have the first 4 tracks, which is where the 3 singles come from actually, because I forgot Singularity was a single. But like that's exactly as like it's like sort of carbon copy Immunity, but like I'm fine with that because Immunity is one of the best fucking albums in the entire decade. And then
it has a side A, side B type feel to it. More, yeah. I would say a little. Actually, it was about the same as the last album because the last one was 4 tracks and 4 tracks. This one is basically a similar sort of thing.
Yeah. But I like compared to like the second half of Immunity, which is much more like low key,
and mellow.
Like this part just feels like much more of like, okay, this is Hopkins, like he's creating just these otherworldly, like alien soundscapes where he's going with like influences of just straight up like ambient piano music of like modern classical and minimalism and like still with like micro house and like tech house sampling and whatnot, but it's still like it's much more like lush and refined and I don't know, just fleshed out much more than like the like low key piano bits on Immunity ever were.
It has
also, I don't know how he got like better as a producer since Immunity. Like somehow as a sound designer, this is like a really big step up. Like when in the more up-tempo tracks, when the synths like cut into the mix, they cut really hard. Like they're so blunt and pointed and like 3-dimensional. It feels like he's using space a lot more on this album to like very cinematic effect.
Did you say space?
Oh my god!
Oh, I did.
Big blue orbs.
There are a lot of big blue orbs on this album. My take I would offer is that I think the second half, the more ambient half of this album, I might slightly prefer to Immunity's second half, but I think Immunity's first half is a little stronger than the first half on this one in terms of like, I like all the singles for Singularity. I really love Everything's Connected. I like Emerald Rush. Emerald Rush is not my favorite Jon Hopkins song. It's not bad. It's different, and I like it. But I'm less like over the moon about Emerald Rush than I am about like other songs on this album. But I just don't think you can really top the run at the beginning of Immunity with. I think also tone wise and like the general mood of the album, I think Immunity is a lot colder and it's a lot more kind of it has a lot more melancholy to it, while this album feels really like spacey. Like it's like this feels like an odyssey and like an exploration, and it's very.
I mean, hence the album art.
Exactly. It's more trippy and like serene and kind of out there than it is kind of cold and melancholic in the way that Immunity is.
Yeah, I mean, the second half of the album, like, you have, like, Feel First Life, Cosm, and Luminous Beings. Like, those 3 tracks alone would just give you a solid B-side. And it's just a fantastic, A-side, B-side contradiction. Not contradiction. Yeah. What am I thinking of? Yeah, pairing. Yeah, and I hate to, like, keep comparing this album to Immunity, but like they're just very similar albums. Like Hopkins really is just like finding a niche and just filling it completely to the brim, and I'm fine with that. I do agree though that like the first half of Singularity is nowhere near the best compared to the first side of Immunity. So I'm looking back, like first half of Immunity had like Open Eyes, Signal, Breathe This Air, and Collider. Like you can't top that. You literally can't top that. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So he does the best he can, and without making it sound like a rehash a whole lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, the production is much more like he has a much more refined, like fleshed out sound on this. Like you can tell it's much more detailed. It's much less robotic and cold than Immunity was.
It feels big budget, which is like appropriate given the subject matter.
It feels huge. Like this is massive.
I think the one thing that he does so well, this is the last thing, the thing he does so well is he'll have these songs and there's lots of artists that are good at this, but like he is really the best, where he will take this beat that's so off kilter and glitchy and just sounds wrong, and then he will spend 3 minutes of a track like wrangling it, like he's trying to like carve a sculpture out of marble or something, and all of a sudden like the groove of the song just like reveals itself, like you've uncracked some kind of code and you've opened the and then all of a sudden it just like hits all at once. And like the way that he's able to blend together kinds of electronic music that are like prickly and heady and kind of inaccessible with these grooves that move and flow is something that so few artists can do successfully. It is so hard to combine those two things, and kind of the way that he does that on songs like Emerald Rush and songs like Singularity and songs like that, it's really cool as shit. Yeah, I like this album a lot. And
some good
there
shit.
Are two more like
folks.
oh, and then by the way, folks, if you haven't heard me like yelling a lot about music I like this episode, the next two albums are number 1 and number 2 on my album list.
You're going to be hollering for like the next half hour. So.
I mean, pretty much for the next album, since like the first single came out for this album, I was just kind of like roll out the album of the year carpet because here it come.
We're talking about Janelle Monae's Dirty Computer.
We were talking about Janelle Monae's. I was about to say, yeah. We were talking about Janelle Monae's Dirty Computer, which is this her? What album is this for? It's like 4 or 5.
It's her third.
It's only third. Wow.
I thought there was something before Arcandroid. I guess not.
I think there was like an EP or something because Arcandroid was like phases 3 and 4 or something.
Metropolis.
The
Chase, okay, so this is album number 3, and this album is an interesting shift for Janelle because it is way less capital C conceptual than the last 2 albums. There's no like overtures, there's no like characters. This is like her in the first person. In a way, really, the transition from the last album to this one kind of feels a little bit, in terms of topic, feels a little bit like the Channel Orange to Blonde transition, where it's like, on the last album, I was using characters and stories to kind of tell things about me. Like, those albums spoke to something about her personally, but through the lens of these kind of storytelling things and this Afrofuturism stuff. And this album is, like, taking that, but it's really, like, the most personal Janelle Monae album. And folks, this album is hot. It is steamy. It is sexy. It is just raunchy as hell. It is truly wild in terms of how on her Prince bullshit, in terms of like the oozing sexuality. And I mean, this album has a lead single that sounds like a Prince song, and I believe Prince worked on this album in the very early stages of it.
I think he gave her that song. Like, was what I read in an interview.
I'm pretty sure like has like actual Prince stuff on it. It's not like people were like, this song sounds like it's a Prince song. It's like, I think it was. Like, I think this was a Prince song, so that's probably why it sounds like that. But I mean, going into this album, there were a lot of great singles for it that were like all over the place. Like, everyone was like, what the hell is this album gonna sound like? Because you have a Prince song and a rap song that were released at the same time, and then the next song was a Grimes featured song about vagina. And then the next song was a R&B song, and everyone was like, "Sure, let's just see whatever this is." And it is all over the place, but in a way that like really works. Like, the track list flow of this album just hits in a way that is truly an achievement in plotting a track list. Because every time I think I listen to LCD Sound System, and I'm like, okay, people just don't know how to put songs in the correct order on albums. But then I listen to Janelle Monae, and it's like, oh, people do know how to put songs in the correct order on albums to make it sound good. And this one,
the most immediately striking thing about this album is just how like conceptually consistent it is, and just like how every single second of it just like works towards the same goal and the same image. And it's just like, Janelle Monae knows how to make a motherfucking album. Let me tell you what, in like the kind of current landscape where it's like, trendy and appealing to make a project and an image and like surround your whole art as like an experience, and you sort of brand yourself in this fashion, in this way. And I mean, like, I haven't even watched the full-on short film that like accompanies this project, but I can only imagine how just like vivid and evocative it is, and just like everything about this as just like pop music or just music in general is so fucking impressive and so fucking just like immensely creative. It is fantastic to just behold her doing all of her shit on this album.
I'm gonna come in with some slight criticisms of it, because I think this album is like, it's fine, like it's just all right. And I really like comparing it to like her other two albums, like Arcandroid. Like Dirty Computer definitely feels like an album that was made in 2018. Like, and comparing that to like Arcandroid and like even Electric Lady, like those albums sound like the future. Like they're not tethered to a certain time and place in like the musical landscape. But this album, it feels like, like Janelle's perfecting the like the current pop sound, basically. And she does it great. Like she pulls it off fantastically, but like it's definitely like thematically it's sort of like different from her other two albums. And not only that, but like, I don't know, I just want to like this album more than I do. Like I really don't enjoy the rap segments of this album, especially Django Jane. I think Django Jane is just like really lame and just kind of dull, and I have no idea why she put that out as a single, really, especially when she had Made Me Feel. I don't know. It's making me feel like the first half of the album is definitely really, really good. Crazy Classic Life, Pink.
Take a Bite is very good.
Take a Bite's also, yeah. But then like it loses steam towards the second half after Make Me Feel. I don't know. Like once I get to Got the Juice, like from there it kind of just loses momentum for me for each like going down the track list.
I personally like the rap parts in this a lot. I understand your like kind of criticism of the album as a whole. I do not understand your criticism of Django Jane, because that song makes me want to punch a hole in a wall. I like it a lot. When there's so many like bars on that song that are so funny and quotable and memorable, and I just really like that. Like in the middle of her pop album, she takes a minute to make a rap song about how she's the greatest pop artist and how you need to respect her, and then she takes a detour back into the album. And I don't know if it should have been a single, but I think it's so like distinctive from the rest of her work. It seemed like by making it a single, she's trying to say like, look at me and look at all the different things I'm going to be able to do on this album. Look at how I'm going to. And that's really what, like we kind of talked about a little bit. That's what we kind of want of our artists in 2018. We want artists that are not just doing one thing well. We want them to do something that is everything. But I think it really works on this album in a way where, like, every song on the album feels different than the last one, but they're all positioned so well on the track list that they flow really well together. Some of them have awesome seamless transitions, like from Screwed to Django Jane, where there's a sample from Screwed that's in Django Jane, and that transition between the song, the sample, and then the next song is really, really like cool and inventive. And that's what kind of gives her the ability to throw a bunch of songs that don't make any sense together on a track list and make it work.
Yeah, like my thing about Django Jane is like it's mostly just dealing with the content of the song, like in their terms. And like I tweeted about this the other night, where it's like I'm not as big a fan of like political art that seems to rely heavily on like current events in order to like this, like Django Jane is going to sound really dated in like 2-3 years. And you can quote me on this, because it just, I don't know, I don't like using, like rephrasing Trump quotes to like make some, like feminist.
The only time I really would say that really for me doesn't work on the album is when she does the part in Juice where it's the pussy grabs you back thing. Like and that was not to say this as like this means it's good opinion, but that was like Fantano's gripe with it, is that because these songs are so pop oriented, the most they can be lyrically is kind of like sloganeering. Like you can't really, it's hard to make an album that is like capital P pop and also dives into like new nuances of political issues, because those two things just don't really go well together. Like Kendrick Lamar can do that, and that's the end of the list. And so like, for me personally, like I think this album, it's not the parts of it that are capital P political, where she's like referencing Trump directly, are the parts of it where I don't like it lyrically. I like it more as a political statement, like I am going to be a free gay ass motherfucker in spite of you over there doing your bullshit. And the
I mean, like in that sense,
where she steps over to like engage with the bullshit directly is where it doesn't work. She needs to stand over here and be like, I'm gonna just go be gay as hell. And
I mean, like in that sense, like the album is like politicized, and it is like this sort of like socio like aware kind of thing, and I'm like, that's what I'm all for. Is like capturing, I don't know, this sort of like rebellious attitude that this album like inherently needed, and she pulls that off like really really well. But like she just kind of like, it's kind of like an iconoclast when like you compare that to just some of the other just like, you know, like again, like mainstream, like current event, like CNN headline kind of stuff that just continually pops up throughout the album. And it just, I don't know, it just takes me out of the album, you know? It takes me out of the music, and I'm like, I don't know, like it's weird, you know, like you can make political statements and you can you know, stand up for, you know, oppressed groups and do all that without like having to resort to like rephrasing Trump quotes, in my opinion. You know, Nazi punks fuck off. That's like a universal statement, you know?
Exactly. I get what you mean by that.
Yeah,
I think that's very
grabs you back. That's like, no, I'm sorry, you know?
I don't like that line, but I
don't like that line either. It just makes me feel all gross and like.
Yes. I do like I Got the Juice though. That's a fun ass song, and I like that Janelle Monae has brought horny Pharrell out of his retirement. we got the same. Pharrell has a unique quality to come on a track as he did on Drop It Like It's Hot, where he'll just come in and say some really just nasty shit, like truly gross shit, and that's always very fun on a Pharrell beat.
I can't wait for Pharrell to be horny on the next Minions 2 soundtrack.
we need Pharrell.
Brother, this guy stinks!
That's my contribution. That's my contribution to this conversation.
I don't know. I like this album a lot. I think it's very good. I like kind of the it's a very 2018 album, and I think that's what it is for better and also what it is for worse. But I also, and like, I think that the 2 points where I agree with you is I think on I Got the Juice, and also I think on Americans. Americans is also a little bit kind of like general.
I just stop Americans. Like I just stop the album before I even get to the last track, just because I don't want to listen to it.
Yeah, but I think on Americans, like she says some good, like I think there's enough really good, interesting socio-political ideas on this album that I don't mind the moments where it becomes like cheesy or corny or whatever, because like because more importantly than the political elements of the album is that this album starts with a opening track that has a Brian Wilson harmony all over it, which is just like cream, and then it's just like 7 bangers in a row, like 9 bangers in a row. Like she just strings together an unreal run of like a bunch of really catchy songs that all sound crazy different, but all somehow make sense together, and they're all tied together by the same rebellious energy. And I think the last couple of slower cuts in the album work really well for me. I really like Don't Judge Me a lot. I think it's super good. I think So Afraid is a little sleepier, but I think both of them work very well together in terms of kind of cooling down after that run of just like pure pop explosion that most of the album is. And And I don't know, I really love this album. I think one thing we can agree with, album cover of the year by like.
Oh yeah,
literal miles.
A long shot. Yeah.
Whoever did the photography with the colors on her face and the thing behind it, and just her album cover is better than anyone's looks at the Met Gala today. Like, get out of here with that shit.
Yeah. Lily, did you have any more thoughts on this album?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
This album. Where do I begin? I've been like trying to collect my thoughts this entire time. What I will say off the bat is that like, don't judge me, maybe a sonic cool down, but that is not an emotional cool down.
Oh no,
that song is
that
difficult.
F's you up real bad.
Yeah.
There's some lines in there that'll make you feel a few things.
Yeah. To bounce off the point you were making, Dylan, like I guess like what you not liking the sort of more directly outspoken parts of it.
It's not that
speaks to
I don't like
not
directly
the outspoken.
It's just like how
blunt it is, I guess, and like referential. But that really speaks to like what a great case of like the personal is political this album is. Like this album makes a very, very bold statement in terms of like what Jackson was saying is like she's just being like unabashedly, uncompromisingly gay throughout the whole thing. And that like you would not think is necessary, but really kind of is. Like I can see the immediate like critique of this album being like, I don't know, do we really need like another gay empowerment album? It's like
yes.
Yeah, we kind of do.
No. Like,
that's all. That's all.
I'm not trying to say, you know, like.
Oh, I'm not accusing any of you of that. Just to make
it clear.
Yeah, but you know, it hasn't been easy to be that in the last few years. So for her to come out with this is like so galvanizing and empowering, and especially in kind of an unprecedented way. Like I don't think a Black queer woman has ever had this kind of platform before. And so the fact that she's not only like seizing the platform, but using it to just like be completely no holds barred herself is like very, very important. And I think she succeeds at that very well. And like, even at a tangible level, like I don't remember exactly what the statistic was, but like the day she came out in Rolling Stone, just like people Googling the word pansexual, like skyrocketed by, you know, tens of thousands of percents.
Yeah.
And so like for her to attain this level of visibility and like use it in the way that she does on this album, I think is very great. Like it really resonates. There's so, I wish I had the lyrics with me. I don't want to like just list off lyrics, but there's so many lines on this album where it's like, yes, that is the feeling of being, you know, I'm white, but like in terms of being an oppressed queer woman, like I can understand a lot of these lines on that level, and to hear her saying them feels really, really good in my soul. If you like want to see the effectiveness of this album, you should have just like walked into any group chat full of lesbians the night it came out.
Yeah.
The mass hysteria was there, and in my opinion, justified. Like, I don't know, it's an album I'm going to have to spend more time with to have like a full proper takeaway, but I think it's really great and really important and satisfies all my expectations.
Yeah.
And don't judge me. Just to talk about that song for a minute, just to single it out as the highlight of the album. So going back to that sort of like notion of acceptance, there's this idea now that like queer people have attained mainstream visibility, that like it's fine now, that like the acceptance is there and there's nothing to worry about or feel anxious about anymore. And that song like communicates how not true that is in a very beautiful way. Like there still is all this internalized bullshit going on, and like just these ideas and you know, still things that like people say and do out in the world that makes it like feels like a very fragile and forbidden thing. There's still this innate feeling of like wrongness to queer intimacy and this desire to be like absolved of that in this very tender way. And that song communicates that in like an incredibly accurate and resonant fashion. And I could go about that song for a while. I'm just going to say this song is great. I have too many thoughts to like coherently articulate on this podcast. It's great. I like do not have any bad things to say about this album. Even, you know, sort of the cheesy parts, the cheesy political call outs. Like another part of this album is the fact that she is sort of like playing in this very campy realm at times. And like personally, I find that really enjoyable. That I think there's like a self-aware, like wink nudgeness to some of the posturing she's doing at certain points on the album, and it's still just like so fun and dynamic and engaging to hear that like I don't really care too much about it beyond that. Like, yep.
Yeah, again, like my issue is not with like this. Yeah, like my issue again is like it's not as like what she's saying or how she's saying it. It's just like sometimes she says something and I'm just like, that sounds like it's from like an SNL sketch or something, and it just feels very vanilla, basically. Not like always on this album. Like there's definitely thematic elements and statements here that very much are so. What she's trying to accomplish, and she accomplishes it very well. It's just just like the zeitgeisty kind of parts of it. I'm just like kind of on.
Right.
But like other than that, that's like the only gripes that I have about it. Like the rest of it, I'm like, yes, absolutely.
All right, let's move on and talk about the best album of the year so far. Question mark?
No, but go off, King.
He's not wrong.
He's not. Of course, it's our sweet collection of Danish boys. Iceage are back with Beyondless, a beautiful album with a beautiful album cover. And I mean, I don't know. As soon as I heard Catch It, I knew we were in for a surprise, but nothing could really prepare me for the first time I clicked play on this album and was immediately overtaken with the urge to just go smash shit with like a golf club and just like it's hard for me to listen to this album without having a visceral physical reaction to it, and it's just like right now this album is occupying my brain in a way that like an album has not done in a very long time, where like if I'm not listening to this album I'm thinking about how badly I want to be listening to this album. It's just some of the best gosh darn rock and roll music I've heard in a very, very long time. And folks, it's very, very good. Let's introduce some more discourse here quickly before we start diving in.
Yeah. You were just talking about this, putting this record on. When you start an album with Hurrah, like it's just gonna go. It's just
Hurrah is literally
it's
Hurrah,
gonna escalate so quickly. It's so
it is
good.
that
it's
Vince,
one of the best.
It's that Vince McMahon gif where it's like the first frame is me like hearing the first frame is me hearing that opening riff, and then just like the frame says that first verse go on, and then just like when it hits the chorus I'm on the floor just like, and I'm like, I have to deal with this for the next 40 minutes of my life.
Yeah, by the time he gets to the can't stop killing and won't stop killing, you shouldn't. By the time he gets there, you are like foaming at the mouth because you were just so overwhelmed by the riffage. And I think this album, first of all, as someone who not even that big of a plowing into the fields of love guy, like I haven't really gotten into it really, and this album is like perfect. It's like a perfect rock album. There just isn't a bad song on it. I like every song on this album. They're all wild good. This album is a ska album. It is.
That's got canon, which makes it ska. Unfortunately, that's just the rule these days.
It has scores. It makes ska. So that's definitely a program. I think and some people have talked about this. They're Danes. They're foreigners. But in the time period from Plowing to Beyondless, my man Elias has been taking some English classes, and his grasp of the language has escalated, not only in that you can hear him more clearly, which wasn't really that big of a deal on the last album, because like that's not really what you're listening to Iceage for. You're listening to Iceage for the wild art punk shit and screaming that's going on. But like the lyrics on this album are unbelievable. Like I think the thing that really like elevated this album for me to another degree, besides the fact that like musically I think this album is like front to back goat, but like the increase in like the ability to understand what he's saying has led and also an increase at the same time in lyrical quality. Some of these songs have some just wild shit on. I mean, we were talking about this before the podcast, but like Elias is capable of reaching like truly like top tier levels of scumbaggery and dirtiness. It's like all of the sleaziness of The Weeknd with none of the showering of Post Malone, but like crust punk version of that. And it's just he's just a dirtbag, and he's talking about STDs on the tip of his tongue, and like and it's so nocturnal and rowdy and kind of menacing. Like the things that he does with his voice on Catch It are like he heard King Cruel moaning a lot on his last album. He's like, "Oh, buddy, let me show you how you do that. Let me show you how you just gutturally moan like you're dragging your voice across." You know what Catch It reminds me of? This is a very weird and complicated metaphor, but remember the scene in There Will Be Blood when Daniel Plainview breaks both of his legs and he drags himself into town across miles of rubble? That is what Elias is vocally doing on Catch It. He is dragging himself across a dusty desert, like, emotionally. That's what that song is, and it is so good. Catch It is such an incredible single. Painkiller is an incredible single. Take It All is just an Afghan Whig song, and that's why it's great.
Take It All fucking whips ass. And
Take It All is amazing.
Yeah.
The strings on there, like, are you joking me? Like, how are they able to do something so gross and dirty and then can do something so heavenly? Take It All.
Can we talk about that opening bass line? Because it, like, I want to go riding into the sunset over it.
Yeah, everything. I go AJ.
Above and beyond, like, the, insanely interesting vocal performances, like, across every single track on this record, like, each track offers you something different if that's all you're into. Here, it's just like, this is some of the most impressive, like, group performance we've heard on a rock album, like, in a hot minute. Like, maybe, honestly, since the Sleep album, but, like, before that, it's been a while where you've just heard, like, a bunch of guitars that sound this good together. But it's just like, yeah, the moment I keep going back to is on Catch It, like, the last couple of seconds where it just, like, speeds up and, like, ramps up right into its conclusion. And it's like, that is hard to do. And, like, that's not a thing that you actively think about when you're listening to music that often, if you're kind of, like, lost in or not really paying attention to just, like, the technical nuances of it. But, like, the technical nuances of the performances on this album are insane to consider. And I really need to see them live now after getting obsessed with this album, just because it's like the way that they're also in sync across this album and touching into a lot of different styles. It's not just like falling under this umbrella of post-punk, which, like, does have a pretty significant, backlog in its own waves and influences and things like that. But it's just like, so a song that sounds like, The Day That Music Dies and a song that sounds like Showtime are on the same record, which is insane. Yeah. It's the same people playing those songs, but it's just like, they know how to be showy and boisterous and just put on a goddamn good tune. And also there's a Sky Ferreira feature on this album, which is insane. Yes.
Just for fun. My take about Showtime is like if Welcome to the Black Parade by My Chemical Romance went to art school, it would sound like Showtime. Like, it's the same kind of, like, campy, very, like, very over-the-top goth shit, but it's also, like, with this completely whacked out, insane kind of artistic edge to it.
I mean,
I think, talking about the speeding up and slowing down, the end of Catch It is obviously incredible, but the shit that they do on Under the Sun, where they speed up and slow down, like, 4 times in that song, and they're just like, we're just gonna change tempos just with no warning, and we're gonna do it perfectly, and it's gonna melt your brain off. Yeah, this album is wild. And I was talking about this before the podcast, but I was trying to talk about how I really love the run of songs from like, I was gonna talk about, like, The Day the Music Dies and Plead the Fifth and Catch It, but I was like, I can't say that there's a run of songs that I really like, because then I have to include the song below that and the song above that, and then it's just the whole album. It's just the whole thing. It's just like, oh man, I really love that run of songs of 11 songs from the first song on this album to the last song on this album. Really good stuff right there.
Right when it seems like it's about to be, like, creatively bankrupt or sort of, like, get a little just like, okay, I see all the tricks that they do. They fucking throw Showtime on there, and you're like, just take me home at this point. Like, if that's what you're just keeping in your back pocket, like,
happens exactly at the moment on the album where you're like, okay, I think I've got a handle on what this album is, and then they pull the rug out from under you and be like, stay on your toes, bitch. Like, don't think you've got us figured out. In a way that really, really works. Yeah, Showtime is definitely, of all the ska moments on this album, Showtime definitely is up there in terms of the horn. The horns on it kind of remind me, I said this in the chat, but they kind of remind me of the blaring horns on a Life in a Glass House. It's that same kind of, like, they really blare, but they're, like, so kind of twisted and sad in a way that really, really, really works with Iceage's style. But it's so much more, like, visceral than a song like Life in a Glass House is. Yeah, this it's great. I haven't fully processed, like, all of the lyrics of this album, but every time I read it, I'm just like, there's so much wild stuff in there that I feel like as I continue to revisit this album more and more and more, I'm only going to get more over the top on how much I like it.
I've not delved into it nearly enough lyrically, because it wasn't until I read the Pitchfork review last night that I realized what Showtime was about, and I was like, oh, what? Like, if there's more of that hiding on this album, I gotta read this lyric sheet, because dang.
There was there are a lot of moments in this album that are just, like, lyrically, and you don't notice them because the stuff that they're doing with the rock music and the yelling is so viscerally intense that it's kind of even hard to listen to music. Not because you can't hear the lyrics, but because your brain is, like, half melted and your ability to comprehend what's actually going on with the words that he's saying is kind of turned off. Because you're just like, oh god. Yeah, Hurrah especially is probably my favorite song on the album. And just what a way to open a goddamn album with those guitar tones. It's just so good. It's fun. They're really good, and they're really good at incorporating, like, twangy kind of guitar sounds into this mix of punk in a way that just doesn't seem like it makes sense, and it does. Like, every once in a while you're listening to this album and you think it's about to turn into a country album, and then it doesn't, but you just kind of feel it coming on, like you just feel a cowboy hat creeping from around a corner. Like, what's this twang coming in here? And there's, like, don't worry about it.
I apologize. Breaking news. You remember? So Jackson, before this podcast, we were talking about a meme that was sent to Jacques Green, the age of the age of cover that was photoshopped. They had the photo of Elon Musk and Grimes in the little panel. OPN just posted that on his Instagram.
That's so good. Oh my god, I love OPN so much.
Oh, and also, Iceage are some dirty, filthy boys, and I can't wait to dig into this album once I get out of my funk, which is this week, because I have 4 days off work, so I'm about to dig the fuck into this album.
Working, of course, at the Mark Kozlek Content Factory.
Of course. Again, I'm still waiting for him to come in. I'm going to give him a green goddess salad. I'm going to say, hey, Mark, have a nice day. And hopefully he says...
Thanks for coming to Panera Bread.
Well, it's St. Louis Bread Co. here.
Oh.
All right. You filthy
that's fucked
animal.
up. That's violence.
That should be illegal, actually. Hopefully you don't end up in a song on the next album. This kid tried to talk to me at Panera Bread today.
No. Are you kidding me? Like, I don't care if it's negative or positive. If I was in a Mark Kozlek song, like, I'm set for life. I'm set for life.
It is going to be negative, though.
Like, when I
go to a Mark Kozlek show, like, there's part of me that's like, I want this to be a really good crowd for Mark, but there's also part of me that's like, I want this to all break down. I want Mark to start cussing me out from the stage, like, you there in the shirt, fuck you. That's the ideal, really. Is the both ways you're at. Oh, okay, someone check the bingo box for Jackson mentions Mark Kozlek.
That was a free square, actually. That's the middle one.
Oh, I don't know if that counts because I didn't bring him up out of nowhere. That was actually someone else's suggestion of topic conversation. That's really when whenever you know the Indieheads episode of the podcast is about to end because someone starts bringing up Mark Kozlek. It's okay, time to just wrap it up. We're done here. No more salient points are going to be made this episode.
He is the bottom of our well.
Always and forever, Mark.
Oh, that old horse again.
There was a lot of good music on this episode. We talked about a lot of stuff that I'm, like, actively excited about.
We should just call this episode, like, Music is Good Again, because we had a lot of gosh darn good stuff to talk about.
I'm pretty sure this episode is gonna be called Blue Orbs. or space.
I beat the fuck out of my blue orbs. I mean, it's gonna be the brain thing. It's got to be the brain thing. Like, what is it?
I'll pull it up.
It's gonna be. I need Musk's big brain. All right, it's what it's gonna be.
By the way, I'm 90% sure that fanfiction is at least in part a bit, because there's just a couple of lines that are too funny to not be a bit when they say
it's entirely a bit.
Oh, it's a bit. It's totally
so satire.
It's totally a bit.
The point that gave it away for me was when they said crusty lips. I was just like, okay, yeah, they're making fun of him, but God did it make for good content.
It's great content. But folks, that will do it for this podcast. Before we end the podcast, I want to give a quick shout out. I was already a fan of the album, but I have decided to stand this Haley Hendrix album. I need to start Garden. We've talked about it for like 4 or 5 podcasts in a row, but I have decided to stand. It's very good. I'm gonna see her in July, and I'm gonna die. All right, I'm gonna die on the floor, tears in my eyes. I'm gonna thank her. I'm gonna thank Haley Hendrix, but probably not. I'll be too scared to talk to her. I'm too scared to talk to any artists at concerts. But hey, hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. If you haven't already, go listen to the first episode of Indieheads Retrospect that came out last week. We'll hopefully have more on the way. We have a couple ideas. It's just a matter of getting them recorded and whatnot. And obviously, we'll have more podcasts on the way. Hopefully, the Billboard Top 10 will be good again. And but I doubt it. I doubt it. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. But as of course, subscribe to us on YouTube, give us a review on iTunes, and rate us 5 stars and all that. Spread the word. Tell your mom about the podcast. Don't tell your mom.
Show your mom the Elon Musk smut.
Show her that.
That's the problem. Is my parents know I record this podcast, but not every other episode I'm on, I have to be like, you can't listen to this one. Sorry. Matty spends 10 minutes talking about Ezra Koenig busting him open, or Elon Musk and his orbs.
If you make it past the horny Elon Musk posting, we have a serious discussion about Andy Morin's dick. So it'll be a great one.
It's Zach Hill's dick. Get it right.
It is Zach Hill's dick. You're right.
Get it right, Andrew Jackson Moser. Jesus Christ. But hey,
all right.
Fake fan.
But hey, we'll see you guys on the next podcast. Bye.
See you. Oh my God. I think at one point I was like almost blacking out. I was trying so hard not to laugh. Like, and I think one of the times you said space, I nearly...
I made it all the way to big blue orbs, or then whatever it is. Like, I need his brain. It's full of knowledge.
You said orbs twice. You said orbs to describe eyes twice.
Okay. We'll just hop right in, I guess, then.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
What a way to start an episode. Hello.
Here we go. Hello and welcome back.